Of ancestry. Controversy continues to erupt all around President Obama. From his planned speech on Tuesday to public school students across the country, the White House says that the president is just going to encourage kids to do their best to stay in school. But some people are raising suspicious eyebrows, even using words like indoctrination. Some schools are debating whether to even show the speech, and concerned parents are thinking of pulling their kids right out of the classrooms. Joining us now is Hillary Valenti. Hillary does not want her daughter hearing this speech. Hillary, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tell us how you found out about this.
An email went out actually from my ISD on Wednesday evening is when I first found out about it.
And what was your initial reaction?
You know, initially it was kind of, I wanted information. What's going on? What's going to be said? I didn't jump to conclusions originally. Went to the ISD website, went to the Department of Education, and it was at that point that I started realizing I wasn't sure what the purpose of this speech was actually going to be when I saw the curriculum outlines and all of that information. It didn't seem to add up to me at that point.
And you have a 5-year-old. It's my understanding you've decided not to let her sit in and listen to this speech. What about that curriculum and the things that you discovered made you decide this was not for your 5-year-old?
It was really more about it seemed to be focused on the politics of Obama and sounded more like, what will you do because of what President Obama has said? What will you do to support Obama? And it started to sound a little bit more political to me. Not that I think a 5-year-old can figure that out. I'm not that naive. But I do feel like on principle that to have questions such as that, it opens the door for a slippery slope as far as how far are you going to go with politics, and not necessarily in this particular case, but you've opened the door at that point to let politicians come into the classroom and possibly push agendas and ask questions that I don't think are appropriate for public education students.
And what are you hearing from other parents? Are you hearing similar reactions?
Absolutely. First of all, I think a lot of people are very confused. When I mentioned these issues to other parents, a lot of them didn't even know really what was going on. It seemed like you had to be on top of it to figure out what exactly was going to happen on Tuesday. I fortunately was able to contact various people within the Board of Education of our ISD and try to get what the full story was. And just a lot of people don't even know, even today, what is going to happen next week.
Now, you've been very proactive, obviously, wanting to find out what your daughter was going to be taught in school. How would you explain this to her? You mentioned she's 5 years old. She may not understand exactly what the president's going to talk about, but what will you tell her about why you did not want her to sit in and listen?
I would tell her that because I feel that these decisions to advance her education, while they are good, and I'm glad that the president is supporting them, that it is something that needs to be her decision and that we have made that decision together, and that it shouldn't be based on what the president has told her.
Is there any way this speech could have worked for you if it was strictly going to be a message encouraging kids? Would you have been okay with that? Is your concern that it's going to cross the line?
You know, my concern is not really so much that the speech is going to cross the line at this point. I hear that the department has changed a lot of the curriculum guidance, that there's no longer going to be an essay component for some of the older students, and I'm very happy about that. And I've also heard that they are going to be releasing the script of the speech, which I'm very happy about that. Parents do need to see this stuff before their kids are exposed to anything within the school system, regardless of it being political or not. But I apologize. I've lost track of the question.
That's fine. We just wanted to hear about your thoughts on this, and it seems like you've been very proactive and done what any parent should do, is to find out exactly what's going on at their child's school. And we thank you so much for sharing your story, Hillary. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Have a good one.
You too. Well, is President Obama's school speech a good idea? Well, former Senator Rick Santorum is here with us here in Washington to discuss this live. You are a father. How would you react?
You know, you got a couple of problems here with this speech. Number one, you've just come off of the most contentious August break maybe in the history of the United States Congress, where you have people sort of shouting at each other. You saw this earlier and so the level of debate is really high, and you know, all of these public meetings, and then you have Obama sort of almost oblivious to that, sort of walking in and say, oh, I'm just going to go out and talk to these young kids while debate is brewing in America. It looks a little, well, is this part of what's going on out here? Is this part of his agenda? Because everything else he's been doing has been part of that. So it sort of got, I think it got sort of blended in with that. And the second thing, and this has been commented on a lot, this president is, you know, is a very gifted orator, is a very motivational, inspirational figure. He has, in a sense, a little bit of a cult of personality around him. I'll never forget, and I'm sure you watched it during the campaign, these people behind him who would just be staring at him, almost fainting at his presence. And so he has that. You know, it's a great thing, but it's also, to many parents in particular, it's a little threatening to have someone come in who's so polished, who's so cool, and come in front of their kids, and then when you see the curriculum, you see some of the things that have been said that he might be talking about, which are all about him. It's a little creepy. It's a little unsettling for parents.
And is this yet another misstep possibly by the White House, that maybe they didn't consider the full ramifications of what would happen with yet another choice they've made and how it would play publicly? Maybe that they're not understanding how some of these things translate to the average American.
I don't know how you don't see that in the face of the contentiousness that we've seen in the last 6 weeks, to then sort of, what it looks like, do a little end run around the parents and go to the kids and, you know, say, and in the original curriculum, how can I help? You know, one of the questions, how can you help President Obama? That just, of course, is going to set off alarms. It did set off alarms, and even though they've pulled back from some of the questions, it's too late. I mean, they tipped their hands as to what maybe they really wanted to do, and I'm sure the White House would say, well, we didn't know all the questions, we didn't approve them. I don't believe that. I mean, nothing gets approved what the president does unless someone at the White House, or many people at the White House, have signed off on this curriculum, because it does have such large political ramifications. They made a huge mistake. They underestimated the contentiousness that's out there in the American public and how they thought Obama was going to try to beat them at their own game.
Well, and there are a lot of folks out there who think that Washington's already too involved in their child's classroom in some way. Do you think this is going to do more damage than good with those folks, at least?
One of the big fights we've always had was, you know, this idea of a national curriculum, that, you know, we want, you know, schools to be local. We want parents to have control. Here the president is bypassing the parents with a national curriculum, trying to, quote, potentially, at least it's argued, indoctrinate children. Bad move on all fronts. This is not what parents want out of Washington, D.C. They want you to support local schools, help, you know, make sure that you get good quality, affordable education, but not have decisions and policy made in Washington, D.C. and shoved down your kid's throat.
Now, I've got to mention, of course, that there are Republican presidents who had messages for school children as well. How is this different? Is it the same?
Well, a couple of things. First off, the last time we had a president go in the classroom was George H.W. Bush. Not necessarily someone you would consider having a cult of personality around him. This was not a guy who sort of you know, had the glamour image. He was a grandfather type. He was someone who was, if anything, a very odd communicator, not a particularly effective one, and no one would be threatened that he's trying to somehow indoctrinate or persuade your kid. Obama's been all about young people. It's been all about trying to motivate the young and try to get them to sort of really sticky to him. And so you have two different presidents, and you have two different times. You have a president now involved in this contentiousness debate. That was not the case under Bush. It's just bad timing, wrong president.
All right, Senator, thank you so much for sharing your perspective and sitting in with us tonight.